Tonight, new tensions as peace talks between the U.S. and Iran break down. President Trump now threatening to blockade the Strait of Hormuz, that critical trade route which Iran controls.
The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement.
The fragile ceasefire now in doubt.
I'm Imtiaz Tayyab in Islamabad, where leaders are trying to hold together a fragile ceasefire after U.S.-Iran peace talks broke down.
Political fallout.
I'm Torian Small, traveling with the president in Doral, Florida. Why today he's insisting the U.S. economy is strong, even if gas prices don't fall anytime soon.
New CBS polling shows what Americans think of it all. Also tonight, criminal investigation.
These allegations of sexual assault are flat false.
I'm Adam Yamaguchi in Los Angeles with new demands for the top Democrat to exit California's governor's race and Congress.
Highway hazards. Heavy rain causes a rock slide in Hawaii. Boulders bigger than cars.
Oh!
Weather extremes.
Snow in the west, record heat across the east. I'm meteorologist Andrew Kozak with why it's about to feel like summer for millions.
All that plus welcome home.
Houston Integrity splashdown, sending post-landing command now.
The crew of Artemis 2 returns. They saw extraordinary things, taking us along for the ride.
I'm Mark Strassman at Space Center Houston. Not since the Apollo era have so many people looked at the moon and seen new possibilities.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York with Jerika Duncan.
Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday. Jerika is off. I'm Tom Hansen. Tonight, President Trump says the United States will blockade the Strait of Hormuz, stepping up pressure on Iran after peace talks in Pakistan ended without a breakthrough. The waterway is a critical trade route and the shipment of 1/5 of the world's oil supply. And this weekend, U.S. warships crossed the strait for the first time since the war began to begin clearing Iranian mines. Tonight, a new CBS poll shows President Trump taking a hit. 64% of Americans now disapprove of his handling of the situation in Iran, and even more, 66% say the Trump administration has not clearly explained U.S. goals. And we begin tonight with CBS's Imtiaz Tayyab in Islamabad. Imtiaz, good evening to you.
Tom, good evening. Well, the region is really on edge tonight as the U.S.-Iran peace talks break down without a deal, threatening a fragile ceasefire, the global economy, and a very real risk of returning to all-out war.
As Vice President J.D. Vance arrived in Islamabad, there was a real sense of optimism here. Special envoys Steve Witkoff and the president's son-in-law Jared Kushner also joined. They arrived just hours after the Iranian delegation, led by the Speaker of Parliament Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. The Pakistani hosts, who helped broker the fragile 2-week ceasefire so these talks could happen, had gathered the world's media at a convention center close to the luxury hotel where the negotiations were held, to cover what would become the highest level face-to-face meetings between top American and Iranian political leaders since the 1979 revolution. And after 21 hours of marathon talks, Vice President Vance emerged at 6 a.m. local time and said this.
We've had a number of substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement, and I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America.
A U.S. official close to the talks told CBS News the United States and Iran did not reach an agreement on all of the following points: ending uranium enrichment, dismantling enrichment facilities, retrieving uranium stockpiles, accepting a broader regional peace, ending funding for proxies like Hezbollah in Lebanon, and perhaps most urgently, fully reopening the Strait of Hormuz and charging no tolls for passage. Major issues which throw into question whether the shaky ceasefire would hold until the April 22nd deadline, if further talks would be held, and whether U.S. forces would return to direct combat. Mushahid Hussein Syed is a member of the Pakistani Senate.
Are we at the precipice of a deal or something far worse?
I feel we are at the precipice of a deal. But the very fact that the notion that 48 hours before the talks commenced, there was talk of wiping out civilizations. So that shows that both sides have an intent or a desire and the willingness to give peace a chance.
And tonight, Pakistani leaders said it was, quote, imperative the U.S. and Iran uphold the ceasefire agreement and that it would also try to host further talks in the coming days, Tom. And as 2 U.S. warships passed through the Strait of Hormuz for the first time since the war began as part of attempts to clear it of mines.
All right, MTS tie-up with the updates out of the Middle East. MTS, thank you. And tonight, U.S. stock and oil futures are set to open amid new uncertainties in the Middle East. And then there is this. Iran's top negotiator and Speaker of Parliament took to social media warning Americans that, quote, soon you'll be nostalgic for $4 to $5 gas. President Trump right now headed back to Washington after spending the weekend in Florida. And CBS's Torian Small is in Doral. So, Torian, good evening to you. With peace talks off, what happens next?
Good evening, Tom. The president today saying that blockade will stop Iran from selling oil, but also acknowledged high energy prices could continue.
Look, regardless, we win. Regardless what happens, we win.
President Trump downplayed the significance of the talks with Iran as he made his way down to Miami yesterday, just hours before negotiations collapsed. As the situation in the Strait of Hormuz has sent global energy costs skyrocketing, AAA reports the price of a gallon of regular spiked 40% since the day before the war began. The president said in an interview Sunday that prices could remain high through November.
So do you believe the price of oil and gas will be lower before the midterm elections?
I hope so. I mean, I think so. It could be, or the same, or maybe a little bit higher, but it should be around the same.
Higher oil costs are fueling a surge in inflation, according to a March report by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. New CBS polling shows the president's approval rating on his handling of inflation is down to 31%. The poll also found most Americans think gas prices have been a financial hardship since the start of the war.
So I'll drive the extra 10, 15 minutes just to pay 40 cents less per gallon.
Democrats blame the administration.
Gas in Virginia was $2.81 40 days ago. It is over $4 now. Even if President declares victory tomorrow, those high gas prices will be with us for months.
While Republicans caution Iran is still a threat.
No one is willing to trade lower gas prices for Iran becoming a nuclear state.
Lawmakers return to Washington tomorrow. They're expecting a supplemental request to fund this war on top of a $1.5 trillion defense spending budget request for next year. Tom?
All right, Torian Small traveling with the president for us. Torian, thank you. And tonight, calls are growing in California, including more than 50 former staffers for Congressman Eric Swalwell to end his campaign for governor and to resign his seat in the House of Representatives. It comes after multiple women accused Swalwell of sexual assault and misconduct in published news reports. And CBS's Adam Yamaguchi is in Los Angeles with more. So, Adam, what can you tell us tonight?
It is a stunning political reversal. California Congressman Eric Swalwell, one of the leading Democratic candidates for California governor, now facing calls from members of his party to step away from the race. This weekend, Swalwell is responding publicly after multiple women accused him of sexual misconduct, prompting the Manhattan DA's office to open an investigation into an alleged assault in New York. This comes after a former staffer claimed he sexually assaulted her twice while she was intoxicated. Swalwell denies the allegations.
These allegations of sexual assault are flat false. They are absolutely false. They did not happen. They have never happened. And I will fight them with everything that I have.
Among those calling for Swalwell to bow out of the governor's race is House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, who issued a statement reading, "We call for a swift investigation and for the congressman to immediately end his campaign." All 21 Democratic endorsements for Swalwell have been withdrawn. Fellow California Democrat Ro Khanna spoke out against the congressman on Fox News Sunday.
Anyone who abuses young girls and staffers should not be in the United States Congress. And many Democrats have said that not only should he resign, there needs to be an investigation in law enforcement. You cannot do what he did, and I believe the survivors.
The allegations, first reported by the San Francisco Chronicle, are sending shockwaves all the way to Capitol Hill, where both Republican and Democratic lawmakers are weighing possible expulsion votes as early as this week. All this unfolding just 2 months before California's open primary, in which the top two candidates move on to the November election. Tom?
Adam Yamaguchi with the political fallout. Adam, thanks. Tonight, CBS News has exclusive new details in the case of Lynette Hooker, the American woman missing in the Bahamas. Her husband, Brian Hooker, gave these images of maps to friends who provided them to CBS. Hooker told friends the photos show the exact spot where Lynette fell off their dinghy last Saturday. Hooker is in police custody, but has not been charged. And 3 people are recovering in a New York City hospital tonight from a machete attack in one of the busiest transportation hubs in the entire city. Police said the attack in the Grand Central subway station Saturday was random and not related to terrorism. An officer shot and killed the 44-year-old man with the machete. Police say none of the injuries are life-threatening. Over to Hawaii now and a highway hazard. Take a look at this unbelievable video. Heavy rain in Oahu caused massive boulders to separate from a mountainside, sending them tumbling dangerously onto the roadway. The highway was temporarily closed. And here in the U.S. mainland, weather extremes. Let's check in with CBS News meteorologist Andrew Kozak.
Oh yeah, Tom, a lot of extremes, from snow and cold to heat. A lot to talk about in the week ahead. But tonight we're going to start with Hawaii, where we showed you some of that video. Obviously, we're still looking at some heavy rain from now the 3rd major storm system to hit Hawaii since mid-March. More rain than we've had in over 20 years. The good news is we move into the week ahead and we finally turn some of this off with drying conditions by the time we get into Tuesday. I want to move a little further east, but stay out west, where we have some rain and some snow for the higher elevations of the Sierras above 10,000 feet. Many areas now are looking at 1 to 2 additional feet of snow. This is going to last all the way through tonight and into the day tomorrow before it heads a little further toward the Four Corners states. Now to flip things over, we're talking heat. Building heat this week across the east, where much of the I-95 corridor will be 20 to 30 degrees above average. Places like New York and Philadelphia, not just 70s, not just 80s, but Tom, 90s as we head toward Wednesday and Thursday.
Very warm for April. Andrew, thank you. All right, tonight we have a 2026 Masters champion. 54 players made the cut for the final rounds this weekend, and defending champ Rory McIlroy had the biggest lead ever going into Saturday, but there's a reason they played the game. What a finish. CBS's Jim Axelrod is in Augusta and saw it all.
Well, it was not without a little drama, but Rory McIlroy got it done to become just the first golfer in nearly a quarter century to win back-to-back Masters. Tiger Woods the last in 2001, 2002. Rory McIlroy becomes now only the 4th golfer ever to go back-to-back, joining Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, and Nick Faldo. As we say, not without a little bit of drama. He fell behind by 2 strokes twice, once to playing partner Cameron Young and also to Justin Rose, but a sparkling stretch on the back 9, birdies at 12 and 13, gave him the cushion that he needed, and he needed it, especially on the 18th, but got the job done. Rory McIlroy wins his 6th major championship. All along, we've been talking about how he was playing free and liberated, having won last year, and so you get the sense, watching him today, that he won't be stopping at 6 major championships. There seems to be a lot more ahead for Rory McIlroy. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, Augusta.
Jim Axelrod with probably one of the best assignments in television. Jim, thank you. And today, a centuries-old tradition lit up the night sky in Greece. Residents on the island of Chios celebrated Orthodox Easter, firing off more than 20,000 handmade rockets just after midnight. Parishioners from rival churches launched the rockets from opposite hills, a practice dating back to the 1800s. Where cannons were fired. I think I'll stick to the fireworks. All right, straight ahead on the CBS Weekend News, a look back at the farthest trip ever. But first, this story.
I'm Elizabeth Palmer in Tel Aviv. As the U.S. and Iran face off at the negotiating table, Israel's prime minister has to face angry voters.
Tonight, Hungary's Viktor Orban has conceded defeat in what he called a, quote, painful election. Voters turned out in record numbers to end his 16-year increasingly authoritarian rule. Now, Orban was backed by both the Kremlin and the White House, something you don't hear every day. Vice President Vance even visiting Budapest last week to campaign for him. Also backing Orban, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He will face the judgment of voters this fall, and the stakes could be hardly any higher. CBS News chief foreign correspondent Elizabeth Palmer is in Tel Aviv.
With no Iranian missiles streaking overhead, Israeli street politics are back, boisterous as ever.
This is a rally organized by Israel's hardcore opposition. They were against the war, and now they say the ceasefire has exposed the failure of their prime minister's leadership.
What kind of diplomacy was he expecting to do after the war? We have no clue, and it seems that he didn't either.
What are you thinking about your prime minister?
There's absolutely no clarity regarding the goals of this war.
And yet, in spite of a 6-week war championed by Benjamin Netanyahu that killed 24 Israelis and cost billions. Polls show he's still the front-runner to be Israel's prime minister, but not by much. And Tal Schneider, political correspondent for the Times of Israel, says he's got a problem.
People are not stupid, you know? They just listen to the news all the time here.
They heard Netanyahu promise the war would neutralize the threat from Iran, but it has not.
None of the goals that were put forward, such as regime change and taking off the entire ballistics capabilities and taking off the nuclear capability, none of them was achieved.
Israel is stronger, Netanyahu insisted this week, and Iran is weaker. But both sides of the political divide are unhappy. Those who hated the war and those who hate the ceasefire. That adds up to a majority who believe Israel did not win this war, and a political challenge for the man who rolled the dice. Meanwhile, Tom, Israelis are in limbo. Sure, the missiles have stopped, but a stable peace is nowhere in sight.
Elizabeth Palmer for us tonight in Tel Aviv. Elizabeth, thank you. Okay, still ahead on the CBS Weekend News, Canada's former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau now at a different world stage. He's with girlfriend Katy Perry witnessing a comeback at Coachella. And a hint, Baby O, he's back. That's next. Take a look at that. Today in Miami, the former Mandarin Oriental Hotel was reduced to rubble in a controlled implosion. The building standing 23 stories tall. It was the city's largest implosion in more than a decade. And a comeback this weekend in California for pop superstar Justin Bieber. Bieber returned to the stage to headline the second day of Coachella. He performed a whopping 30 songs, including some of his breakout hits. It's Bieber's first time on a big stage in 3.5 years after health issues. The 32-year-old told the crowd to be here is amazing, and it's certainly amazing to see him back. Told the crowd to be here is amazing, and it's certainly amazing to see him back. All right, next on the CBS Weekend News, a record-breaking trip with Americans in wonder. But first, a look back at this day in history.
Upon the death of President Roosevelt, Mr. Truman was hurriedly sworn in as the 33rd President of the United States.
The story, victory over polio.
The vaccine could be considered to have been 60 to 80% effective against paralytic poliomyelitis.
At long last, the shuttle is flying. This morning, astronauts John Young and Robert Crippen rode the spaceship Columbia into orbit around the Earth and into the history books.
And finally here tonight, a look back at Artemis 2. The crew of 4 launched during a full moon on April 1st. Also on board the massive rocket, a small piece of fabric from the plane used by the Wright brothers and an American flag that flew on the first and last space shuttle missions. From space, we got extraordinary new images of the moon and Earth. And it's been a mission of wonder, as CBS's Mark Strassman reports in tonight's Weekend Journal.
Splashdown confirmed.
Copy splashdown, waiting on VLDR.
A new chapter of the exploration of our celestial neighbor is complete. Integrity's astronauts back on Earth.
When's the last time everyone watching the same moment wanted the same outcome and got it?
We did it. We sent 4 amazing people to the moon and safely returned them to Earth for the first time in more than 50 years. To the generation that now knows what we're capable of, welcome to our moonshot.
The Artemis foursome, now back home in Houston, stirred an American ideal. Great countries do great things. Deep space moments they sent home hit home for so many people, including the crew themselves.
It's just like we're a bunch of little kids up here. We cannot get enough of this.
This is the Apollo 17 capsule. Not since 1972, when astronaut Gene Cernan stepped inside it to go home, has anyone set foot on the moon. Artemis 2's success rockets NASA into a new lunar era.
On social media, the reaction makes it clear as a full moon around midnight. A dead world has brought new life to moon gazing, and Commander Reed Wiseman hopes so much more.
I hope we're forgotten. If we are forgotten,
then Artemis has been successful. We have humans on Mars, and maybe that's our footnote. We inspired Susie or Johnny to do what they did. That would be magical.
Savor the magic in this moment, whatever else happens this week. NASA promised us the moon. It delivered. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Houston.
It certainly did deliver. And that's the CBS Weekend News for this Sunday. I'm Tom Hanson in New York. Good night.